Hello, my name is Crystal Petrie, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petrie podcast. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you subscribe to my podcast right now. On today's podcast, we are talking about the intersection of race and sports. And I am very excited to bring this topic and bring this education to you. And here to help me explain the intersection is DJ Mann. So DJ Mann, how are you?
I'm good, man. How about yourself? How you doing this morning?
I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm excited to do this topic because, like I was telling you earlier, it is the very first time that I have had the privilege to talk about such an important topic on my podcast. So I'm very excited about it.
For sure. Let's go. I'm with it. I'm ready.
Okay, DJ Mann. So my first question before we hop into the podcast, where in the world are you?
I mean, I'm in Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont, Texas. All right. So my second question, literally, what is, or explain to everyone, what is the intersection of race and sports? What does that mean?
Basically, for me, what it is for me is just how race impacts sports. The impact that it has on sports. It could be good and bad, man. It's actually something that me and a close friend of mine talk about quite a lot, man. He's a white guy. I learned a lot from him. We learn a lot from each other, but these things come up a lot, man. We're both big into sports, coming from different communities, I guess. We have different perspectives on things.
If you can, what are one of the different perspectives you and your white friend, if I can, white friend discuss when it comes to the intersection of race and sports?
Business. So I don't want to jump too far ahead in the interview, but man, one of the biggest things that we saw differently is the Caitlin Clark situation in the WNBA. He think it's good for business, and I just think that it was sold to us under false pretenses, and I think it ultimately wasn't what they said that it was from the beginning. I don't know if you remember. All right, so I'll break it down to you. So I don't know if you remember, man, like when they first started talking about Caitlin Clark after the whole big Angel Reese did the "You Can't See Me" in her face. Right. They were saying, her being in the league, the promotion and stuff that she's getting is going to be good for women in the WNBA. This is going to be good for the sports. Everyone is going to be able to capitalize on it and this and that, man. So all the women analysts was going in on it. Everyone was big on it. And then next thing you know, it became Caitlin Clark versus the world. You couldn't do nothing to Caitlin Clark. They couldn't guard her. You couldn't touch her. Everything she did was always, this is the first time this has ever happened. This is the hugest thing. And you literally have other people that's outballing her on her same team. But she gets all the credit. And it becomes a disrespect, man, because you got other women that are actually balling, and yet she gets all the credit. And he doesn't see it that way. He thinks that, it's good for business. But my retort to that is, who made it good for business? Who made that good for business? Who made that decision? He like, okay, well, maybe it's her style and her charisma and this and that. She's not that funny of a person. She I'm just being honest. She's really not, man. And I like her as a player, but when it comes to, her as a person, man, there's a plethora of women out there that have style, charisma, and leadership skill. They have these young girls at the game, man, and they're leading by example. It's a lot of them out there, but it's like you just choose to highlight this one. Why? Why is that?
That is an interesting topic, and I feel like it's a topic, and I'm not going to say everyone because I never use absolute words, but a lot of people are discussing the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese dynamic when it comes to the WNBA. And you're right, it started when they both were in college, when
Yes.
Angel Reese was playing at LSU and Caitlin Clark was playing for the Iowa, is it Buckeyes?
Yeah. No. She was playing for
The Iowa, I know it's Iowa.
Iowa something. I forget.
Iowa. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So
Iowa.
we got the college right. And then Angel Reese did the hand in the face, and that was during the championship game or something like that.
Yeah.
The You Can't See Me. But Caitlin Clark had been doing that same thing
Yes.
the entire season to other players.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark is a trash talker.
Yes.
She is a huge trash talker, which is part of all sports. You find me a sport where there is no one that's trash talking, and I'm gonna tell you that's a fake sport.
Man, and let me say this also. I don't think you can really hate on Caitlin Clark because she's not the one doing it, man. When
No,
you
she's not.
Yeah, when you look at it, man, she really is about playing hard. Like the fouls and stuff that they call on her. She's not the one asking for those fouls.
No.
Man, she go out there and she's balling, man, and she's doing her thing. But my thing to my friend, I was telling him, I'm like, bro, you have women that have literally been champions in every level of
Yes.
basketball, and they get no shine. But yet, this woman, as good as she is, she hadn't accomplished anything. She's not a champion in anything. And we're ready to crown her the GOAT. How? It's like, man, you hadn't even done anything yet. It's like you have women, the Las Vegas Aces were working on a three-peat this year. That means that they won 2 championships back to back. Aja Wilson, show you how this media is really manipulating things, man. Aja Wilson scored 1,000 points in a season, first time it has ever been done, right? And instead of them talking, they talk about everything else when it comes to Caitlin Clark, but this woman is literally breaking records. And instead of them talking about her, they mentioned her in a 21-minute video about Caitlin Clark. The first minute and 12 seconds is about Aja Wilson. But this is what they say. Instead of talking about how dynamic she is and the season that she's having, they say Caitlin Clark scores 1,000 points this season and her team is getting ready for the playoffs. Do you think the team is ready for this playoff run to go on a three-peat? And then that was it. It was a minute and 12
Aja Wilson scores 1,000
Wilson.
points.
Yeah, Aja Wilson. So, and then that was it. Out of the 21-minute video, the first minute and 12 seconds, it was mentioning that, and then they just glossed over it. And then the rest of it is about Caitlin Clark and her team this and how she's leading her team. I'm like, bro, so all of this greatness you just glossed over. And then what made me even more upset, what made me lose a lot of respect for Shannon Sharp and Stephen A, is this was on First Take. Stephen A has a lot of pull on First Take.
Correct.
When this was mentioned, Stephen A and Shannon Sharp wasn't even part of the discussion. After they talked about Aja Wilson and her 1,000 points, then they brought Shannon Sharp and Stephen A into the conversation to talk about Caitlin Clark. It's like, wow, that is so disrespectful, bro.
Yeah, I agree. And just to bring it back to the race and the intersection of race and sports, Caitlin Clark is a wonderful basketball player. No one is taken away from her at all. But I was going to say it seems to be, but it is the media, people on social media have created a racial divide between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, or Caitlin Clark and Aja Wilson. It's like Caitlin Clark, the white basketball player, can do no wrong, is the greatest women's basketball player ever, when you have these Aja Wilsons who have been amazing on so many levels for so long. And you even have Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark's teammate on the
Yes.
Indiana Fever
Yes.
that has been a winner on just about every level, who is amazing and who is making, dare I say it, Caitlin Clark be the point guard that she is because of Aaliyah Boston.
That's what people don't talk about.
Right.
Before, when she was injured and she was out, the Fever were losing. When she came back and started balling, the Fever started winning. That's how they got into the playoffs. But
Yes.
I hate it because that's not even talked about
At all.
That's not even, man. Do you know that the narrative for that is Caitlin Clark showed her how to ball?
Is it? I
I
had not heard that narrative.
I promise that, man. They talked about this on ESPN, how Caitlin Clark came to the Fever and showed that team how to win. How in the world can she show them how to win when she ain't never won anything? But this brings me to another thing, right? That brings us to this new history that they're trying to usher in into the school system. You know, they're trying to talk about they want to remove certain facts out of history, and they want to talk about how slavery helped Black people. Basically, how
Yeah.
we came from, living in the wild and in the Congo, and it wasn't until we were enslaved that they taught us how to be humane. That is so crazy.
Right. And that is a dynamic that they have been pushing since, dare I say, like 1864 or
Yep.
1865. So they have been pushing that narrative. And it actually started with a white Christian minister back
Yep.
in 1864, 1869, where he said that the slaves needed to be enslaved so that the white slave masters could help save their souls.
Wow.
Yes. So they have been pushing that narrative since then, and it's just coming back around again. And of course, we know that that is the furthest thing from the truth that I feel like anyone could say or think.
So I get called racist because, so I tell my friend, the white guy, I say, bro, you feel like this Caitlin Clark stuff is good for business, but like I asked him, who made it good for business? And then it dawned on me, it's good for business because it's a white man's world,
Correct.
and it's good for business for him. It helps out. It helps out everything in the economic structure that's getting fed from that entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's good for business, but that's not good for business for us. And you have a different attachment to it because that looks like your sister, that looks like your mother, that looks like your aunt, your daughter. So you have a different attachment to it. Well, the people that I have a different attachment to because they look like my own, they're the ones that's getting overlooked. They're the ones that I don't care how good they do, is never good enough. So I don't see it as good for business, but that's why the perspectives is different. And that's the racial divide. It's like, okay, that's what race has done for sports. It's like it puts us on different sides of the spectrum if we get caught up in the propaganda. And like I told him, I say, man, well, someone has to speak the truth. And he was like, why? Because it's the truth. He was like, man, it doesn't matter. He's like, they're not in the business of truth. They're in the business to make money. Wow. Well, then, like, it's like, bro, if we all had that type of mentality, what would we be?
That is true. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
How do you think, speaking of racial integration, how do you think racial integration of professional sports like the NBA, the NFL, which is National Basketball Association, National Football League, Major League Baseball, how do you think the integration of those sports has impacted, number one, the sports overall, and number two, the fight for civil rights?
Okay, well, I'll put it to you like this, and hopefully this answers your question.
Okay.
This is another reason why I get called racist, right?
Okay.
I feel that integration hurt us as a community, period.
Okay. Explain.
Okay, so for instance, I seen a video of Ray J
The
fighting to get,
singer,
yeah,
the
the
singer
singer,
Ray J? Okay.
yeah. I seen a video of him fighting to get inside of this award show because they wouldn't let him in. Right. We're often talking about how the Grammys don't respect our genre of music, right? And it's like, man, for us to constantly be overlooked, why fight to have a seat at a table that you're not wanted at?
That's a
If we
great
had
question.
if we had our own, you wouldn't have to worry about, someone from another community saying you don't belong here. Because guess what? I don't need to belong there. It's cool. I have my own. The only reason we fight for these things is because we don't have our own. If we had our own, like, I really feel like people would be fighting to be where we are.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I feel like we would have a better value in each other. I don't think crime would be so high in our community. We would still have crime because crime is gonna be. It just is what it is. Every
Mm.
community has crime. You're not gonna completely get away from that. But I don't think that we would have these social issues that we have in our community, man. I think we would get along way better than what we're doing.
That is something that Malcolm X and numerous other people felt, that integration was a bad thing for African Americans, because before integration, we had our own grocery stores, we had our own schools, we had our own doctors, our own lawyers, our own communities. The family dynamic was stronger then than
Yeah,
it ever was
exactly.
before or since. So you are not alone, DJ Mann, in that thought process. Do you think the integration of
Hold
sport?
on. Before we go to that, I gotta add something to that though.
Yes.
So when you look at it, right, what community can we go to say this is our own? Like I'm here in Beaumont. You go to the west end of Beaumont, everyone looks at that like that's the white community. It's predominantly white. You know, that's where your judges and lawyers and stuff stay and all that stuff, right? So, what community can we say this is ours?
I don't know. You're talking about, are
I
you speaking
I
about
help
like,
you. I
okay,
help you. The hood. The hood is is
okay,
is is ours. We're the minority. I mean, we're the majority in the hood, right?
okay.
Well, if we're the majority and we have these issues, they put the responsibility on us. If we don't like the conditions that we live in, we need to come together and fix it, right? We need to come together. We have a responsibility of making our environment what we want it to be. I hate when people talk about, man, this is what they're doing in Lumberton and this and that. It's like, bro, we got the hood. Why don't we dress it up? Why don't we fix it up? Why don't we dump our money back into our hood? But we put our money in everywhere else instead of our own. So when I say things like, we need to be, or desegregation hurt us, it's not because I feel like we're so much better than anybody else. It's because I feel like it would cause us to have to come together and work together, and then we can fix our issues instead of listening to all these voices that really don't have our best interests in mind anyway. It's like we would be forced to have to sit. It's like your parents coming home and saying, y'all gonna sit in this house and clean up. Other than that, like, you're not gonna be able to go nowhere else. Well, guess
Right.
what? You're gonna find out how to get that house clean and work together as a family. You're gonna find
Yeah.
out how to make some games and make this stuff enjoyable. We've been doing it all our life, man. If you grew up in the hood, you'd have found out how to just make it entertainment and excitement out of nothing.
Because you were forced to. And they say
Exactly.
invention stems from need.
Yeah.
That's where invention comes from. So you were forced to turn the mattress into a trampoline
You
because
feel
your
me?
parents couldn't afford a trampoline. No one could.
Yeah.
So you were forced to invent, and create your own fun. Do you think that the integration of sports helped the African American community or hurt the African American community?
I think it helped. I think it helped. I think it got us a chance to display our skill on a bigger stage, which ultimately led to bigger money. The WNBA is getting that opportunity right now. Caitlin Clark coming into the WNBA it has its benefits. You know, we have bigger eyes on the WNBA, and they've been balling, and they're still balling. So the product is good. With that much attention on a good product, money has to follow. And you can overlook greatness for so long, but they're gonna receive some good payday out of it. I just know that if what I hate is the narrative. All of this is coming because of Caitlin Clark, and it's so many great players that came out of the draft that's coming out of the draft this next year and the year after that. And I feel like that's the reason why I think Caitlin Clark is just one of those good players that came out of the draft,
along with Angel Reese.
along with Angel Reese, Cardoso, a plethora of women that came out, man, and has been balling since day one. And I show you another thing about media propaganda, right? So there's this narrative that Angel Reese gets so many rebounds because she rebounds on her own off her own miss, right? So Rebecca Lobo, the legendary Rebecca Lobo, she dug up some stats and said, well, if you took away all of her offensive rebounds from her own misses, she would still lead the WNBA in rebounds. So you know
Right.
what ESPN did? They showed the clip of her saying that, but then the next like 5-6 slides was videos of Angel Reese getting rebounds off of her own miss. So that's a way I felt there was a way for them to debunk what she said without actually having to use words. We're just going to use imagery. So you see her saying one thing, but then when you look at the clips, you're seeing something different. So it kind of almost dismisses what she had to say. These are the type of games that they play. Like, I'll give you another one. Caitlin Clark scored 28 points in the game one night. Angel Wilson played the next night and scored 41 points. They on the WNBA page, they posted a stat of Angel Wilson scoring 41 points. On all the rest of the sport sites, ESPN Women, the WNBA page, and it was like another page. They all showed a stat of Caitlin Clark scoring 50 plus points, 18 plus assists. Now, at the fine print, it said over 5 games. Why in the world was it a need for that on the same night Angel Wilson just scored 41 points? Why did you have to compile all this information of 5 games to just post this stat just for her? It's like, what was that for? Because you want to keep her in the news feed. Just like right now in the WNBA, they got the finals. Well, it was just over with. The Liberty just won. But I think they were like in game 3 of the finals. Now, Caitlin Clark had been out of the playoffs. They posted a picture of Caitlin Clark, and then there was a picture on the side of it of a dog wearing a Caitlin Clark jersey. It's like, bro, you just do anything to try to put this girl in the news. It's like, man, these girls is balling in the finals right now.
Yes.
This is what you do.
And you know, DJ Mann, we are talking about the intersection of race and sports. This is not the first time this has happened. This also, and I'm a sports head. I love sports. This happened with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird as well. Because remember, the NBA used to be recorded and tape delay. It was not live how it is today. But when Magic Johnson went up against Larry Bird, of course, Magic Johnson was playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, Showtime Lakers, and Larry Bird was playing for the Boston Celtics. Both of them, the highest of the high in the game during that time, they made it a race situation. And more eyeballs started wanting and craving watching the NBA. Now, of course, we did not have social media, and we didn't have the 24-hour news cycles and things like that. But the race part of it because Magic Johnson is African American, a black man, and Larry Bird is a white man with the blue eyes. I think he has blue eyes, but the curly hair, and he's white. So they made it a race situation, and it drove millions and millions of eyes to the NBA. And the NBA is now what it is today because of that.
You know what?
This situation with Caitlin Clark, a white female, Angel Reese, a black female, it's horrible the way they are putting the races against each other. And it is not Caitlin Clark that's doing it. It's not Angel Reese that's doing it, but it's people and communities around them that's doing it. And I
Yes.
feel like now, it's horrible, but it could propel the WNBA to higher heights, just like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird did for the NBA. What do you think?
Man, so that answers a question for me that I had for a while.
Okay.
Me and another friend of mine were talking about the effects Michael Jordan had on the NBA, and they
Okay.
felt like the NBA created that storyline for Jordan to capitalize off of.
Well,
But
yes,
listen,
I did.
but listening to what you were just saying about Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, what it seems like is they created the storyline of Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird.
Yes.
And then what happened is Jordan was added into the storyline when he came into the league, even if they didn't want him to be the in that actual storyline, but because of how well he's playing, they had to cross paths, and when they did, Jordan shined.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and then with Larry Bird making a statement like that's Jordan in a basketball jersey, you know, you had to give attention to this guy because the lights is shining.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
exactly what's going to go on in the WNBA. It's like
Yes.
I hate it, man, because Aja Wilson won the MVP, and
Yes.
people were saying, "Who is Aja Wilson? Who is it?" Like they really felt like Caitlin Clark should have won the
MVP.
MVP. But if you watch the game between Caitlin Clark Fever and Aja Wilson Aces, it's clear that Aja Wilson was the best player on the court.
And I feel like a lot of the people that are championing something like that, a rookie winning the MVP, are
They're not
new.
fans.
They're new. They're new to the WNBA. They haven't been watching it. They don't know the storylines. They don't know Asia Wilson. They don't know Brianna Stewart, Stewie. They
Yes,
don't know these
which is
other
a baller.
yes. They don't know these other people. And the ticky tack, or what I would consider, that's up to debate. The ticky tack files that were being called for Caitlin Clark. If you go back and Google WNBA files, WNBA fights, you will see that the WNBA historically has been an aggressive league.
Yes.
Historically, that didn't just start with Caitlin Clark getting here. It's always been very aggressive. The women have always played very aggressive.
I always say this, man. The WNBA played 90s style NBA ball, and I love
Yes,
it. I
yes,
love it.
yes, yes, yes,
Also, they talk about Caitlin Clark being fouled, man. But do you remember when Angel Reese got fouled and put on her back, and it was no foul call? They just went up the floor and kept
yes,
playing.
by AT Alyssa Thompson.
Yes, and then she come back down, and Angel Reese goes up for a rebound, and she just slams her out the air on her back, and finally they call a foul. And it's
Yes.
like, bro, I had never seen that happen to Caitlin Clark. It's like, bro, she got bumped up against, and it's like, oh wow, like that is so heinous. It's like, bro, come on, man, come on, bro.
Yes, and that can be interpreted a lot of different ways. When they call the file for Caitlin Clark, but they do not call it for Angel Reese, that goes back to, and I'm a history buff as well. It goes back to slavery times when slave masters would sell their slaves to medical facilities. And the doctors will perform operations and different things on the slaves because they said that slaves had a higher pain tolerance.
Yeah.
And therefore, they didn't need anesthesia. They didn't need any medication that would help with the pain. Fast forward hundreds of years later, you have things like Angel Reese being slammed out of the air on her back, and there is no file.
Yeah.
So the strain of that is still prevalent now from the 1600s, the 1700s. We still see it now, just in a different form.
That's true.
We just see it in a different form. What role, because Jackie Robinson, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the first African American to break the color barrier in any sports, and he broke the color barrier in baseball, Major League Baseball. How do you think his experience has shaped race relations in the U.S., with him being the first African American to play on a major league team across any sports?
Well, I think it just showed that, I think everybody that had something to do with that situation, they really were ahead of their time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the coach was all for Jackie Robinson, and I think it really just gave us a platform to show that we can be, equally as skilled as our counterparts, I guess. So it was a good thing. It was a good thing. I think it showed a lot, man. It showed businesses that you can make money off of these guys, like you would do any other athlete. It showed that we're not a danger that people thought we were. They were thinking that it was going to be a whole bunch of violence and stuff. You let us into the league, but it ultimately brought us to where we are today. So it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
What do you say about, with Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in Major League Baseball, but of course across the sports spectrum, has led to the inclusion of females in sports, whether it's led to, the WNBA because of Jackie Robinson, and it's led to other races and ethnicities been allowed in these major league sports as well, that all started from Jackie Robinson?
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true, man. Like I said, I just think that they took that same dynamic and grew the NBA with that same thing. It's like, okay, we had the hype of Michael Jordan, and then it was like, we're gonna sell him across the world to grow this NBA. And then I think when they went there, they started seeing that other players can ball too. So they used that same mindset on, okay, well, let's see if we could bring some of these players over and get them in the league, introduce something new to the league. So I think that introduction of something new started with Jackie Robinson and expanded the good old boys club, man. It's like, okay, we can add others to the fold, and it could be beneficial. And ultimately, it works out for everybody. It works out for everybody, man. But I don't know. I feel like if we would have had a Negro League first, things would have been way different. Like if we had this much, I just hate that we have this much attention, this much money coming through our community, coming through our well, not even our community, but coming through the hands of Black athletes, entertainers, and whoever else, man, that's making these millions of dollars. And it's like the Black community have less than what we did when we were segregated. It's like, why is that?
Well,
Because
that's that makes me think of something else, because there were Negro League, baseball teams, Negro League basketball teams.
But they
I
didn't
don't
have
think there was a
the
Negro League football team, but once Jackie Robinson was, integrated into sports, then those Negro League baseball, basketball teams slowly, if you want to say slowly, started becoming non-extinct
but
because all of the players started, well, the owners of the white teams in baseball and basketball and football started integrating other African Americans into those sports. And now you have no Negro League teams at all.
that's my point. That's kind of my point. Um, Before Jackie Robinson went to Major League Baseball, I think we had Negro League baseball, but what I meant by it is we didn't have any money flowing through there. Like we didn't
Correct.
have money like talking about. So
Correct.
this drew us to that to where we are now, man. It's like we have all this money, but we're doing nothing with it for our own community. It's like if we empowered our own, we could have that again.
Okay.
Like I said, if we just empowered our own, man, it's like when we feel we're not treated as equals, you could always say, like, bro, we could just pack up and get out of here and we can go and do our own thing and we're gonna still have the same views, the same money circulating. It's like we can sustain ourselves with just us.
Do you think that that is feasible if the African Americans left basketball, left baseball, left football, and created their own league? Do you think the money would be there? Do you think the viewership would be there? Do you think the support would be there like it is with an integrated NBA, with an integrated NFL?
Well, my thing is, so I'm a football fanatic. I love football, right? Um, when you look at the positions of the starters in the NFL, it's predominantly black. If you took those if you took those starters away, 9 times out of 10, the second string is black. If you took all the black folks out of there, what do you leave the NFL?
That's a great question.
So people are coming to see those players play. They're just gonna go transfer over. And it's like, man, you have players like Christian McCaffrey, which is a baller. But I'm not saying lock players out. So if Christian McCaffrey wanted to come and ball, let him ball. But now we in ownership. But
Okay.
if we don't have the mindset of empowering our own community, what good is it gonna do? If we're not on one accord, it's like, what good is it gonna do? We're just gonna be in the same issue, just this time with different owners, having the same issues, and that's our point. I think, to be honest with you, I think we are a bigger hindrance to ourselves than any other issue on the outside.
And by we, you mean African Americans are a bigger
Yeah,
hindrance. Okay.
yeah.
And that
We
leads me to my next question. Go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, we are a bigger hindrance to ourselves, man. We hurt ourselves the most because if we had more value in who we are and what we do, what somebody else call you, it wouldn't even matter. Like if you know that you're a beautiful black woman and then someone says, "Oh, I don't like her, she's ugly." Like, so what? That's your opinion. Like, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, but it only messes with you when you know that there's truth to it.
Oh, or when you believe there's truth. Even it might not be true, but if you think it is, then you're really affected by that. But that leads me to my next question with HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, because African Americans were not allowed into PWI's predominantly white institutions like
Mhm.
the University of Georgia's, the Alabamas, the University of Texas, the Texas A&M,
Colorado.
Colorado,
Yeah.
all of these colleges, we had our own colleges, historically Black colleges and universities with our own sports teams at that time were dominant across the country. But when integration came, a lot of the major, and still to this day, your 5-star recruits are going to your Georgias, your Alabamas, your Colorados, even though I am a fan of Colorado and what Deion Sanders is doing over there. I greatly appreciate that. The historically Black colleges are being left out and are suffering because these 5-star recruits are going to other colleges. What do you think about that?
Um, I don't think the two really have anything to do with each other.
Okay.
I feel like with all of the money that is going around in the Black community, right, with the celebs and stuff, why aren't they coming together and donating toward the HBCUs? You know, as for like players and stuff going to other colleges, I mean, it makes sense. Like the money isn't there. The money isn't there at the HBCU. So because the money isn't there, like the players aren't there, NFL eyes aren't really on the HBCUs like talking about, but they definitely check them out. They definitely check
Yes.
them out, but it's always a knock against them because it's like you're not playing against any real competition. That's the thing that they always say. So it's like the money not being there is the bigger issue to me. You know,
Okay.
you know, the majority of the people that I see going to HBCUs are players that really don't have NFL hopes like as a real reality. It's like we're going ball out to have a good college career, but you're not getting NIL deals like talking about. It's like they're not even comparable to what's going on in D1 colleges or PWI colleges, right? So uh, that's what I think the bigger issue is. I don't really think it's. I think if the money was there, everything else would start to change.
Okay. What do you think? And we're going to pivot here. What do you think about athletes who use their platform in sports as a way to promote civil rights, as a way to challenge racial stereotypes, as a way to promote racial pride? And
Okay.
I'm thinking of absolutely LeBron James, Chris Paul, Colin Kaepernick lost his entire NFL career because he used the platform of sports to uplift African Americans and to talk about how African American, predominantly men, were being harmed by some white police officers.
Okay. So here's my thing with that, man. And I'm all about being equal and fair, right? I don't want to mistreat anyone. I'm not trying to be better than anyone, as in, you know, I'm black, so I'm better than this race. Like, I don't believe that. So with that being said, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope because I don't care about all right, I'll put it to you like this. If LeBron James can say, I'm proud to be black, then we can't be mad at a white player for saying I'm proud to be white, or a Latino player for saying I'm proud to be Latino. If we could have a black player saying how much he care about the uh, Black Panther Party, then what power structure could a white player talk about? I don't know. I'm just saying, what power structure could they talk about? What help? Like, if we could be so proud of these things and talk about these things, which I'm all for, it's just you have to be aware that you're opening up the door to the opposite side of the spectrum. So if you're okay with that, then it is what it is. Me personally, I don't care. I don't care about stuff like that, man. I don't care if a white guy comes out and says, "Man, I'm white and I'm proud." My response is, "You're supposed to be." That's your culture, bro. That's your history, man. You're supposed to be. I'm not offended by that, you know, but a lot of people are. And my thing is, if you are offended by that, then why be so much on, we need black players to do this and do that? It's like, yeah, but you were just offended by something that this person of another race had to say. Like, it don't go together to me, man. It's like, you got to be fair, bro. If this player can talk, then so can no one. And you don't know what's going to come out that other player's mouth. You got
So
to keep that into consideration.
do you think that players, athletes should use their platform to promote racial pride and denounce racial injustice? Or do you think that should be left out of sports altogether?
No, I'm completely with it.
Okay.
I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? I believe that players in general should have a voice, right? I'm not so easily offended, man. It's like, okay, if there was a player out there that was racist and he wanted to talk to his racist brothers out there, cool. Like, I don't see what the issue is, man. Show the world who you are, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, be who you are and walk therein. Like, be that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe in all that hiding, throwing a rock and hiding your hand, man. If that's who you are, bro, that's who you are.
Do
Now
you
you
think
take whatever comes with that. If that's who you are, you got to understand everybody not gonna like who you are. But it's the same thing as if you are a follower of Black Lives Matter. That's gonna upset some people, bro. So you got to understand that, okay, yes, you have the right to do these things, but it comes with certain reactions. And to be oblivious to that part of it, you're just doing yourself an injustice because you set yourself up for failure. So, in long story short, yes, I'm all for players being able to speak on how they feel, period. I just understand that that's going to come with somebody's going to say that they don't like black people. And okay, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Like, you can say what you want. That doesn't hurt me. You can't do me anything. But it's just your opinion. That's your preference.
Okay. Now that is a take I have not heard. I don't know if I've heard that take before. So that's a very interesting take.
Man, I'm so easygoing. I really could sit down and have a conversation with a racist.
Okay. And what would be the benefit of that, do you think?
I'm just into culture. I'm into culture. I'm into psychology. Just to I'm all for unity and peace, bro. So, like, if you don't like black people and we sitting down and we're just happen to, be around each other and we start talking and you're like, man, I really don't even like you guys, bro. Like, dang, okay, why is that?
Okay.
And then if he can answer the question, I can hear, I can listen. So it's like, okay, well, then I just ask another question and just try to figure this thing out. And if I can debunk any of the things that he believed and get him to see that that's not true, you never know, man. You might find a friend. You might be able to educate somebody that can go back and educate others. I'm not so quick to close people off. It's like, man, a lot of things are misunderstandings, misconceptions, and a lack of knowledge. And when you just so much closed off, man, it's like, man, okay, well then how can you be mad at people if you never told them the truth? So if you could be civil and come and talk, I could be civil and listen.
Wow. Okay, DJ Mann. Okay. Okay, yeah. I like it. Now we're going to get back to the topic of race, the intersection of race in sports, but I do have a follow-up question to what you just said. Have you had, and I'll use the word opportunity, to sit down with someone who boldly and vocally says, I don't like Black people, I don't like African Americans, and what came of that conversation if you have been able to do that?
I haven't had the chance to speak with someone that boldly say I don't like African Americans. It didn't come in that form, but I coached in Vider for 4 years, and a lot of the people that I came across in Vider, people would say like this person is racist, and to be honest, I would have said I would have thought that they were racist also. I'm not quick to call people racist, but I would have thought it, right? But what I learned in conversation is a lot of the things that I thought was one thing is really because they didn't understand.
Okay.
And as we begin to talk with one another, man, I never had a bad experience in Vada in the whole 4 years. So we sitting there, man, talking and stuff, and you start to figure out, okay, they start talking and answering questions. I'm talking and answering questions. You start feeling, oh man, I thought that this was this, and that's why this go on, and this is what this is. So you start to understand the biggest thing that the biggest revelation I had was these people that I thought might have just looking at the way that they talk about stuff or handle things, I would have thought, man, that person might be racist. But what I learned from talking to them is a lot of it is just a misunderstanding, and they have never really came across a black person like that. It's like they always see them at work or at school, and then that's it. And it's like you really just have small talk at work, and the rest of the knowledge of what black people are, who they are, what they represent is over the TV screen, over the airways and music and stuff. That's where they getting their idea of who we are and what we do because they don't really know. So through us talking, they realized like, oh, like bro, that's not even they really ain't trying to do this or do that. And I realized that these people aren't really racist. They just don't know, you know, and vice
Ex-
versa.
Explain to my audience why you put emphasis on you as an African American coached inviter
Because
for
they
four
they refer
years.
they refer as Vider as a sundown town, and I've been in Vider, on my own well after the sun. Now Vider has a history that people likes to continuously bring up all the time, and they have a history of racist behavior, and so a lot of that stuff is warranted. But I just
Mhm.
believe that the new Vider isn't like that. They had the KKK come through and try to do a march or something for new members in Vider, and the residents ran them out of there. They were like, "Bro, we don't want that here." You know,
Okay.
me being in Vider, man, I got to kick it with the mayor at his office. I done went to some cookouts and stuff at Vider, man. Way off in the backwoods where they tell you not to go. I'm a
Okay.
big believer in this also. I'm a big believer in this, man. I'm a huge believer in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that this is my father's land, and anywhere I put my feet on, I'm covered if he allowed me to be there. So they telling me I shouldn't go to these backwoods spots in Vida, but I was invited there by a player that I coach. Now it's gonna be a lot of people there, but I go, man, and as I'm going, you get off the highway, go down the road, then you hit this little duck off road, and it's uh, a rock road, and then turn into a dirt road, and you just out there in the backwoods, man. And I'm a country boy, man. They do a lot of the same stuff I do, man. Bonfires, country, fishing at night, you know, barbecuing. It's the same stuff, bro. It's like, man, like, bro, we're doing the same thing, but you would never know if you just stay divided.
Okay. Okay. So let's get back to the intersection of race and sports. What role do you think economic inequalities play? And I'm talking about the youth in sports. What role do you think economic inequalities play in access to sports programs for Black youth players? And I'm talking about sports that are normally white sports like soccer or swimming or golf. Of course, African Americans are making, roads in all of those sports, but normally it's for white people, and those sports are considered more expensive.
Well, my thing is, once again, it all begins with community.
Mhm.
You know, like I say, man, me being with one of my friends that's a white guy, he's over a football league in Lumberton.
Okay.
And you get to see, you know, just how things operate, how they do things, man. And they really come together on a lot of stuff, and they make decisions as a community, as in what we're going to do for this particular thing. That's stuff that we don't do.
Okay.
We don't do those things, man. And even when you look at the football leagues for the youth here in Beaumont, a lot of those are done by people that have came together and said, man, this is what we're going to funnel our attention, our time, and our money on. And these things are a success, but ultimately it takes on the role of leadership, right? So the standard takes on the role of leadership. So you see a lot of how the organization move really starts to mimic who's in leadership. So when you see teams that's real rowdy and stuff, that's because they have a leader that is okay with their behavior. He probably exhibits that same behavior. You know, if you see a team that's more disciplined, that's because the leader doesn't allow, you know, other type of behavior. So it's real structured. What is it's all based on, you know, that leader. So I say that because when you look at okay, what we have access to, what we want, you know, all that comes from community. Is community based to me. It's everyone coming together and saying this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is what we're going after. Anybody got any ideas on how we could get there? You know, how does this benefit our youth and all of that, man? So Vider and Lumberton have a good thing. Well, I know Vider did. I know Coach Matthews isn't a coach in Vider no more, but what they would do is from the high school all the way down to the youth league, the head coach at Vider and Lumberton would have access to those players. He would come see them in practice. He would know what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, what they're being taught. So from youth league to middle school, all the way till they get to high school, they're being taught to fit a system that they're going to be meeting when they get to high school. So it ultimately leads to success because you have been brought up in this way, and you have a communication, you have a relationship with the head coach. From there, it's like that's something that we need to employ, man. We need to do that ourselves. I believe Coach Colbert over at BU is doing a good job of that right
And
now.
that's Beaumont United High School.
Yeah, my United. He's doing Coach Colbert is an awesome coach. I know, you know, Beaumont United doesn't have a winning record right now, but the kids that are coming into the JV and varsity next year, man, there's some really nice players that's coming in, man. They're gonna be balling. They're gonna be balling. But yeah, Coach Colbert, I don't know about any of the other coaches because I hadn't personally seen them, but I personally laid my eyes on Coach Colbert and seen him working around and with the youth and help them develop so they can fit the BU system when they come.
Staying on that topic of leadership, DJ Mann, what do you think about the lack of diversity in leadership when it comes to major league sports and even collegiate sports? Do you think that diversity would help with recruitment, would help with understanding of players, would help with what some people in the media or just in general might say is divisive and they're angry and they're always fighting? Do you think that having a diverse leadership in these major league sports and in these D1 huge college programs, do you think that's needed? Would it be beneficial?
Yes, but I believe the bigger issue is people just being closed minded, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a young lady that had a tattoo. I believe it was going down like her whole left side, and
Okay.
it caused a stir because people didn't like her tattoo. Right? They didn't understand the tattoo. Well, come to find out, that's a part of her culture. I believe she's from Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the lady name, but that's a part of her. That's a part of the young lady's culture, and you know, so her family came out and they was, you know, dressed in I don't know the proper name for it, but you know, their whatever their tradition is, so they're dressed according to their culture, and people were just so, you know, turned off by it. But it's because, man, it's too many closed-minded people, bro. It's like, man, why you just can't take a chance to learn what is that instead of just being judgmental and just, you know, saying how you feel. Oh, that looks stupid and she shouldn't do this. How you know she shouldn't? Like, how do you know that? Like, did you even look into it to see what is that about? So, man, I believe that there should be standards to be in leadership. You have to know about culture. You have to have a knowledge of different cultures, and I think you have to spend some time around these cultures before you can even officially work in a leadership capacity. Maybe that would help out, but as in having other players or other coaches or leaders from those particular or from different cultures, period. Yes, that's always a good thing. You know, you can't go wrong with it, man. You know, it's always good to be around someone that looks like you, that knows, you know, that particular background. It makes the player feel comfortable. But being realistic, you know, we grown, bro. You're not always gonna be able to be comfortable, you know. So I'm all for it, but I just understand that it's rare that you're gonna have those opportunities, and you really shouldn't even look for it. Like even with myself, I'm doing business now with people that do not look like me.
Okay.
Right? They don't look like me. They don't really understand my background, but that's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. You still got to go out there and perform, and you know, and you still got to be the best version of you, and you know, and make it work, bro. Like we are living in a melting pot called America, bro. Everyone is. You're not always going to be around your kind.
You spoke about this next topic, DJ Mann, earlier in the podcast when you said that some white people, the only way they know about or have heard about African Americans is through sports or through music
Or movies.
or movies. Yes. Do you think that the way Black athletes are being commercialized, like, for example, you gave a great example with Michael Jordan, how he's being commercialized and how he's being, um, I don't want to say that word. We'll just stick with commercialized, how he's being commercialized. Do you think that that is giving a fair and accurate representation of African Americans? Do you think that's helping stereotypes? Do you think it's hurting?
Well, I'm gonna answer it with this. You know, the biggest um hurt to us in the media from that standpoint, once again, it's us. People feel that they know us based off of the music that we make. So listen to what's hot right now in the music that we make. It's trash. It's trash, man. A lot of the messages that are being recorded in music form now are conversations that you wouldn't want your kids around. Right? So it's like, if it's not good for our community, then what in the world is we letting the thing that we don't like represent our community? Then you talk about stereotypes. I hate I hate I hate I hate when we pick up the camera and stereotype ourselves. You know, we make movies and everything is, you know, the weed head that's comical and the gangster sidekick. It's like, bro, like, man, it's so much more to us than that, man. But you can't be mad when we champion this as this is a great movie. So people are like, okay, well then why is this such a great movie in their community? It must be something that they can relate to. So you can't be mad when people feel like, okay, well, this is who you are. We recorded us, we put the storyline together, we produced it, and then we champion this. And now people are like, oh, that's what y'all do? And now we mad. Like, man, they judging us. Yeah, you put it out there. To me, that's the same thing as you putting your business out on Facebook and then being mad when somebody have an opinion, or when you come across somebody and like, oh man, it's the person with all the drama. You put it out there, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, we have to be more careful in how we represent ourselves to the world.
Okay.
It's like it's easy to say this person here is misrepresenting us and they stereotyping us and they don't understand. Is it they don't understand, or is it the fact that we're not putting out proper representation?
Okay, those are excellent questions. I'm so glad that I have you on this podcast, DJ Mann. You have been so passionate about this topic since before we even got on this podcast.
Yes.
And your passion has come through during this entire hour. With hour 5 at this point. It has really come through, and you have given me, even as the host, a lot of aha moments and things to think about in different ways to see things. With that being said, I have a couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you go, DJ Mann. Cool. What do you say to people who say, just play the sport, leave out the politics, leave out the societal norms, leave out the racial uplifting, just play the sports? That's my first question.
Well, if I would
question, okay, go ahead and answer that one, then I have my follow-up question.
Okay, I got you. So as a player, my response to that would be, how can I overlook so much injustice and that affects my mental space and how I address the game? You wanting us to overlook a problem that affects us might leads to more attention on the field, on the court, whatever the sport is that we're playing, because we don't have an outlet. So how about seeing what you could do to help us in this situation instead of telling me to overlook a problem that's bothering me? To me, that sounds very insensitive. So I would call people out on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would call people out on it, because if this was your community, you would feel some type of way about it. Okay. And the reason I know that is because I have, like I said, the same friend of mine. We were talking about history and how passionate he is about history, and and what it means to be a patriot, and you're supposed to stand up for the flag and this and that, man. And he's just so stumped down on history. But then I asked him about Black Wall Street, and he don't know nothing about it. I asked him about Rosewood, and he don't know nothing about it. So you passionate about the stuff that affects you. That's what they're telling me. But what about the things that affect me and the ones that look like me, my forefathers, man, the things that they went through? Why can't I be passionate about that? So that's what we have to understand, man. Is people, I don't know. What it seems to me, we all just have to take the time to understand one another instead of being so closed-minded and saying this is this. It's like, man, everything ain't what it look like. Sometimes you got to take the time to sit and listen, man. Like, okay, what is this? Even if you think you know, just ask. See if you can confirm what you thought you knew, because it might be something else.
Okay. There was, and here's my second part to that question. There was, and this happened maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'm sure you probably remember, there was a white anchor who told LeBron James, NBA player, to just shut up and dribble, meaning stop talking about the racial disparities, the racial inequalities, stop uplifting African Americans, just play basketball. My question is, do you think it's possible to just play basketball, to just play baseball, to just run track or play golf for African Americans? Do you think it's possible to just play the sport and not say anything about the racial injustice that is going on in the community?
I don't think, even if it is possible, I don't think you should. Only time that I would say you should be quiet about it is if the your boss is calling for you to not address that. If it's gonna cost you your job, bro, make your bread, but then consider. I don't know. I can't really tell a person what to do, but if it was me, I would make my bread and then consider, possibly going to another franchise if possible, seeking another job, because you want to keep that source of income coming in. Because if it was me, the money I make would definitely be having a positive effect on my community somewhere, and I'm not going to cut that off. But what I would do is probably have someone else that I'm attached to in the community be my voice. And when I can't speak, bro, I'm gonna empower you to handle this, and you're gonna know my presence is there. You just can't really attach it to me in the public, you know. But I don't know. I'm way too passionate of a person to just overlook injustice, especially in my own community. Like,
Do you think, with that being said, and with that thought, DJ Man, do you think that Colin Kaepernick made a mistake by foregoing his NFL career? He was at the top of the game, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, to speak out on racial injustice.
no, he didn't make a mistake. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he was the sacrificial lamb, but he didn't make a mistake. And that's another thing, man. I hate to tell people what to do with their money, and speak in what ifs. But I would hope that, all these players wearing, these political shirts and stuff, man, after Colin Kaepernick lost his job, I would hope players would come together and say, man, we're going to put together a stipend or something just for Colin Kaepernick, bro. We all dumped such an amount of money and for the length of his contract. Whatever his contract was, you got this money. Not saying we have to equal the amount of money he was getting paid, but just whatever, God put on your heart to do, man, dump it in the bucket, and we going at the end of the year, this is going to him. And hopefully it's a blessing to him. But I feel like, man, somebody's just but it goes back to the desegregation, man. We don't have that love for one another to where we could say these things, because it's like, man, we got too many other options, too many other things on my mind. And I don't want to say what another person responsibilities is, because I'm quite sure them players is taking care of a lot of other people also. So you don't have a obligation to do these things, but I would just think, seeing your brother being a sacrificial lamb, man, and taking his stance and ultimately losing, you would do something to kind of cushion the blow for him. But that's me. You can't expect yourself from everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, DJ Man, you have been so passionate about this topic, and I appreciate it. I know that you have given myself and my audience something to think about, as well as something to talk about. And for that, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Now,
you for having me on. This is awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, my final question for you, DJ Man, who do you think will make a great guest on the podcast, but you have to help me get them on?
I got you, man. I know a guy named Robert Martin that's he's a counselor. I think he would have a lot of y'all would have a great conversation.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, I look forward to speaking and learning from Mr. Robert Martin.
for sure.
To my audience and to my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get DJ Mann's podcast along with all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.